welcome to the Possibility Mindset Podcast. I'm Devin Henderson, your host, and I believe that something greater is always possible for you. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by today. So great to have you here once again with me. This is episode 2. I don't think I'm going to keep announcing the episodes, but, I'm new. I'm figuring it out. So thanks for bearing with me. I'm also just going to give a recap from episode 1, which I don't think I'm always going to give a recap, but I feel like it's important since we're kind of still getting this thing off the ground. So again, the possibility mindset, basically when you embrace that idea, you believe that something greater is always possible for you. And you never stop asking the question, what else is possible? And this concept does not just apply to me, it applies to all of the seemingly impossible things that you want to achieve, like thriving personally and professionally, no matter what the future holds. So just in case you did not listen to episode 1, that's a very quick recap of what the possibility mindset is all about. So I'm excited to have you here and to help keep you in that positive headspace. All right, by the way, you may not know this. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or some other platform, I also put these episodes out on YouTube. So if you're thinking, I'd love to put a name with, or a face with a name, you can go to YouTube and check that out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're like, we know, we get it. All right, so, right now I'm kind of pumping these things out like once a week because I just want to get it going. And I don't know, I was talking to my wife today, what's it going to be like in the long run? How do people sustain this on a weekly basis? I know some people do it on a daily basis. So we'll see what time will tell. I was thinking initially I would do it twice a month, but if I can keep the weekly momentum going, then I'm going to do that because honestly, right now I'm loving it. Can you tell that I'm actually having fun? I'm showing up with energy. I got my coffee. I'm just like, this rocks. And then episode 100, I'm going to be like, hi. All right, let's cover these topics. The excitement right now is really fun. All right, let's see. That's all the recap stuff. I think what I'd like to do is just touch on one more thing, kind of a follow-up thing from the last episode as I take my drink of coffee. These mugs are fun. I know this is, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. This one says Morning Sunshine. These are from Target. So if you're listening, it's a beautiful yellow mug with flowers and the words Morning Sunshine in cursive. We're big Target people. We live close to Target. We can walk there. So we're there all the time with the kids, buying fun things. And so we like these mugs. We have a collection of mugs. We're coffee drinkers over here. That's something I need to talk about in a future episode, coffee. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about from episode 1 is that, I mentioned the soccer kicks and how my record for juggling a soccer ball is 11,241 consecutive kicks in a row without dropping the ball. It took 2 hours. And I do share that story in my keynotes. And one of the most common questions I get asked is, are you in the Guinness Book of World Records? And yes, I am in there. I read it all the time. That joke never gets old for me. No, I'm actually not in the Guinness Book of World Records. There's someone who has juggled for longer than that. Many people actually, and I don't want to get too much into that now because I'm gonna cover that the idea of that. And I'm not even going to tell you what that means, but I just want you to know for now I'm not in the Guinness Book of World Records, but I'm going to talk about what it means to set and achieve goals, even if you're not always going to be like the very best. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully that answers a question in your mind. I wasn't telling that story. I don't tell stories to brag and be like, look what I've done. But I do talk about my achievements because I feel like if I've learned something from my achievements, then you can learn something from them too, right? So what I'm going to do today mainly is 2 things. I'm going to, first of all, make a confession, and then I'm going to tell a story about my America's Got Talent experience. Okay, so those are the main 2 things today. So let's start with this confession thing. All right, I'm thinking about doing segments. I don't know if I'm going to be a segment guy or not. That's kind of the fun thing about starting a podcast. You're like, I'm just trying things out. I'm going to see what sticks. But one segment that I have an idea for is Confessions of a Motivational Speaker. I think when we motivational speakers show up to events, sometimes people think that we just have it all together, right? Or We appear to have it all together, right? Because we're getting up and we're telling you how to live your life, how to do business better. But what's really going on behind the scenes, right? And I'm a very transparent person. I'm a very confession type person. Like, I like to let people know what's going on because I like to keep it real. Okay, I don't want to put on some kind of facade that makes it seem like this is unattainable for you, right? I don't want you to see me speak or hear me talk on a podcast and be like, well, that guy's got, he's at a different level, all right? Because I suppose, we could put on whatever image we want to, which is the way social media works in general. People put out their best. They put out their sizzle reel. They put out their highlights, and you don't get to see the dirt. And I just want to share dirt, not just because I have to get things off my chest, but because I feel like if I can become more real to you, it can give you more hope that, oh, this person struggles with this, or this person has that about their personality, or, oh, that's not everything I thought they were, So I'm going to start today with a confession of a motivational speaker. My confession is I'm an introvert. And surprising, right? For a guy whose living is to travel around, meet new people, talk on stage, and put myself out there. I am an introvert. Now, I didn't really recognize that it was a thing until maybe like 15 years ago. Okay, so when this first kind of came to my awareness was I was in a fraternity in college, which is maybe another confession. Maybe we'll save that for another time. Actually, just to dispel any stereotypes, I was not a partier. I didn't drink. I never have drank. That's not a pride thing. It's just the way that I was raised. It was always like bad, and I don't judge other people who do, but for me growing up, I just didn't. So when I joined this fraternity, there was about a handful of us who didn't drink. So anyway, that's kind of beside the point. Thought I'd throw that out there. Now, in this fraternity, there were about 60 guys living in one giant house, and it just sounded like fun to me. But over the course, I lived in that house for 2.5 years. I started to learn that I can't have people around me all the time because it drains me. And I had heard the terms introvert, extrovert. I didn't really understand what they meant at the time. Well, fast forward to I've graduated. I am on to life. I'm starting to date Lynn, my future wife, and I'm doing restaurant gigs. Like, that's one of the first kind of gigs that I had, was roaming from table to table in restaurants. And so I'll talk more about restaurants in the future. Everything is like, when are we going to learn something? When is everything happening in the future? Well, if I try to cover every rabbit hole right now, then this podcast will go on forever. So I'm trying to just stick to the point with a few little commentaries here and there. I was working in a restaurant, Fazoli's, fast, fresh Italian, walking table to table on kids' night, doing magic tricks. Sometimes Lynn would come and just kind of watch me and kind of hang out for a little bit. Well, afterwards, we would we'd be driving together, and I would just need this, I would just be like zoning out. Like, I can't really talk to her. I can't engage. I'm kind of in this weird space. And I just kind of attributed it to, I'm just tired. It was just a long day. Well, Lynn and I now look back on that time and we're like, well, what's going on is I was an introvert. And for 2 hours, I had been putting all of my best energy out there into other people. And at the end of that time, it was like, whoa, I have to recharge alone. And since I didn't really understand that, and Lynn didn't really understand that about me either, it was kind of confusing, like, what's going on? And it was good to finally learn that an introvert, it's a thing, and that a lot of other people are this way, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's just like kind of a personality type thing. You're either an extrovert, you're an introvert, and if you don't know what they are, basically in a nutshell, an extrovert is somebody who recharges around other people. An introvert is someone who recharges alone. Okay, so my wife's an extrovert. She's the opposite of me. She's around a bunch of people at a party. She gives her life, and like for hours afterwards, she can talk, and she's still bang, bang, bang. After a social thing like that, I'm like, let me go find a quiet room somewhere, grab, just like a LaCroix, sink down into a dark corner, and just recharge. Okay. So once you start to learn things about your personality, it really gives you explanatory power, and it really helps you set boundaries for your life, right? Because I used to put myself into situations that were right for extroverts. And for my introvert self, it was just not good. Like I would maybe have too many coffees in one day. Or when I go to events, sometimes I would try to socialize with people before I get on stage. And some speakers do that, and that's more power to them. That's great. For me, I want to save my best energy for the stage. And so I know that I kind of need that alone time beforehand. And sometimes even people will invite me the night before and say, hey, come to our social hour, hang out and watch our other speaker. And sometimes I have the capacity for it, but more often than not, I plan on not doing that because I just know that will take away from what I'm going to give them in the opening keynote the next day. So, hey, have you discovered this about yourself? Which are you? And do you have that like explanatory power to tell people, hey, listen, I have this boundary and here's why, and this is going to best serve me, and not just serve me, but serve the people around me, right? Because if I can get that buffer after I've been with an audience or a group of people, if I can get just a little buffer to recharge, I can show up better for my family. All right, so that's my confession of a motivational speaker today. I am an introvert. There it is. All right, I know my fellow introverts are just like, yes. The extroverts are like, what is he taught? Why? I don't get it. All right. Okay. I'm going to move on now to the America's Got Talent story. All right, now you may have seen, he was on America's Got Talent, and you tried to search it, you tried to YouTube it, and I'm not sure what kind of results you got. So let me share my story, and I'm going to preface it with this. Anytime I tell a backstory, it is to help inspire you, okay? And some of the stories I'll tell probably initially in the podcast will be stories that you've heard in my keynote, because we bring, I'll speak for myself, I bring my best, most impactful and insightful stories to the stage as a keynote speaker. So what I'd like to do for if you have heard me speak in an audience is maybe like bring some details that you didn't get to hear in the abbreviated stage version of it. So that'll be kind of new for those of you who have already heard some of these stories. But yeah, these are meant for your inspiration, okay? It's not just like, hey, get to know me. This is about me. This is about, hey, I've learned this, and I think this can help you. All right, so this is my America's Got Talent story. All right, so this was back in 2014, okay? Technically, it was the fall of 2013 that America's Got Talent initially reached out to me in an email. And they said, Devin, we are looking for someone for season 9 to come on, something fresh. We feel like some of what you have could really bring value. As a magician, you do some things that are even different from what other magicians have done. We feel like this would be really good. Would you consider auditioning for season 9? And honestly, at first, I was like, this is a joke. A friend sent this, whatever. Because you know what? I never aspired to be on America's Got Talent. Honestly, when I watched some of those early America's Got Talent episodes, people like this guy named Kevin James, not the actor, Kevin James the magician, did this routine where he it was like, if you go back and Google this, they're like in a they set up the stage like they're in a hospital room, and he's got a chainsaw and he cuts someone in half. And this person, like they're not in a box he can cut in half. The person just straight up gets cut in half, and that's the whole illusion. It was really cool, and I was like, whoa, that's America's Got Talent level, right? Then they kind of started having like every magician on there, and I was like, I feel like there's like it should be held to a certain standard of creativity, mainly is what I mean. And I'm not really an inventor of new magic tricks. I take tricks that have been invented, put my own spin on them, make them entertaining, and now use them in the context of a keynote to deliver a message, okay? That's my style. So when they reached out to me and said, will you come audition? And what they wanted me to do was pickpocket entertainment. And if you don't know what that means, just briefly, it's where you basically are stealing valuables from audience members without their knowledge during the course of a trick, temporarily stealing them, and then when you deliver them back, the shock on their face is like, whoa, he has my watch, he has my wallet, he has my necktie. And it's real fun, and it's all in the context of a magic trick, right? So they were like, that's what we want you to do. And I was thinking, that's part of what I do, but what I would really want to do is bring my mentalism. And if you've seen my mentalism show, you know that's probably the most amazing stuff that I do. But I was like, well, who am I to tell America's Got Talent what the general public is going to love, right? So I, finally emailed him back, found out this is real. This really is America's Got Talent who emailed me. So I emailed back and I was like, okay, what are the next steps? And so they assigned me to an individual producer. Her name was Lisa with a Z. Figured that one out. That was their magic trick. And Lisa and I start, talking on the phone, and she's like, hey, it's going to be in Hollywood. It's going to be, probably sometime in April. Mark these dates out. And so it starts getting real, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, I went from not even America's Got Talent not even being on my radar to I might become famous because of this. So this starts building up my mind like, oh my gosh, like if this goes well, I could all of a sudden have a bigger following on Instagram, Twitter. I'm going to blow up. Like I'm not going to be able to walk down the street without people being like, hey, can we have a selfie? It's the America's Got Talent guy. So my dreams are starting to, scale up. Well, months of preparation go into, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I send Lisa videos on, this is what I'm planning on doing for my first segment. What do you think? She's like, that'll be a total home run. It's perfect. Plan on that. So months go by. Finally, in April, this is about 6 months after they initially emailed me, they fly me out to Hollywood, put me up in a very nice hotel, and my second day there, I walked down to the Dolby Theater, which is where they were filming auditions for season 9. Now, if you've never been in the Dolby Theater, just so you know, it seats 5,000 people. It's one of those giant places right on Hollywood Boulevard, kind of close to the I'm going to mess this up. The Grauman Chinese Theater. Look, I'm not going to fact check any of this. I don't believe in Googling every single little thing. So anyway, it's that Chinese theater where they do movie debuts. And it's real close to there. And so the first day, I'm backstage for like all day. And being an introvert, that was not good for me, by the way. I didn't plan on this confession working into this story, but it was like I was drained at the end of that day, and they didn't even get my backstage interview done, which is why I was there that day, and I was like, oh my goodness. But I was trying to be understanding. I know how these things go. It's hard to manage time perfectly. Well, I go back the next day, and so I have to do my interview and my audition on the same day, right? So I'm backstage, energy getting drained, and finally, I get through my interview, and the time comes for me to get on stage, and it's like, this is the moment now that I've been preparing for, kind of for the last 6 months, but really, unbeknownst to me, almost my entire life. Since I started magic at 11 years old, I felt like this was the culmination of all of that hard work that I had put in. Even though I had been performing professionally for 10 years at that point, it was like, this is the next level. This is what it's all about. All right, so I'm backstage. I'm ready to rock. Nick Cannon is the host at the time, and before I know it, he comes backstage. He's dressed so nice, and he's eating like a Wendy's hamburger. And I was like, so that's what happens backstage. Anyway, he gets up just before I'm about to go on. He goes, what does America's Got Talent mean for you? And I just said, I just think it's the next thing. And he goes, okay, get out there. I was like, whoa, I guess we're doing this. Now, I was already mic'd up at this point. I walked out onto the Dolby Theater, 5,000 people. Okay, huge. I mean, I still try to describe the moment, right? But I can't fully describe it. I mean, there was the lights, the cameras, the judges, 5,000 people, the biggest audience I had performed for up to that point. Not to mention, these 5,000 people were sitting right behind Howard Stern, Heidi Klum, Mel B, and Howie Mandel. And so Howard Stern said, okay, what's your name? What do you do? I said, I'm Devin. I'm a magician. I didn't want to give away the pickpocket stuff yet because that was sort of like a surprise, right? At least for this first round, it's like, whoa, and this amazing thing happened. And by the way, I got this person's watch. So a couple of things made this performance really special. The first thing is I was apparently, what Lisa told me, the first person in the history of America's Got Talent who they allowed on-stage audience participation for. Meaning they let me bring audience members onto the stage to do the effects and the pickpocketing as opposed to just having the judges join me or me going to the judges' table. So pretty special, right? It was something unique, something new. Second thing that made it special was this pickpocket thing. It's a really risky trick, or there's a lot of unpredictable elements to it, but if everything comes together, it has a really high payoff. That's the cool part about it. And you know what? I nailed it. I mean, it was just like I planned. I didn't just steal one watch. I stole 2 watches. It was incredible. The audience was applauding every time I showed a watch. I was like, I am crushing this. I mean, I've been performing in corporate America for years now, and this lands every time. It's what people talk about. And it's just like, this is awesome. Well, the third thing that made it special was, the crowd at the end, they just erupted in applause. It was just like, that felt so good, right? It was hands down, to that day, the highest moment of my entire career, by far. So then it gets turned over to the judges, all right? Now, this is a part I don't share in the keynote. Before they started talking, I got buzzed. Right after I'm feeling like, oh, I crushed it. Here's your watch. Have a seat. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. The audience is going crazy. And then, right, I get the buzz. And I was like, they had told me backstage, hey, if you get X'd, just be ready. It's really, really loud. And it was like right in your ears. You're like, what is going on? And what surprised me more than how loud it was the fact that I got X'd. I was like, what happened? Did they accidentally hit it, Well, then they start talking, right? And Mel B, Howard Stern was kind of the one leading the conversation. He goes, okay, Mel B, you X'd him, you go first. And Mel B said, what was that? She's like, I was expecting something more spectacular, is what she said. She said, I like the way you dress. I when you came out, I thought this was going to be great, but I was waiting for some big ending. See, it's like what she didn't get was that the watch thing was what was new, was what was incredible. And I can't fault her, right? It just wasn't what she was expecting. And I was thinking like, oh, I should have done mentalism, right? Well, then, Howard Stern is like, great trick. I wish I could do that. I mean, he was clearly impressed. He got it. I actually, you may know this about Howard Stern. You may or may not know. He's like a magic fan. So he always loved good magicians. So he was like, that was great. I wish I could do that, the watch trick. That's amazing. He goes, the only thing I'm not sure about is if that particular trick plays to this big of an audience. So see, what it was for Howard was it was like a material choice for that specific venue. Like it just didn't play big enough, which in my prideful mind, I was like, have you seen the magicians who do the tricks with the tiny... Yeah, I'm not the first magician who's done something close up on that stage. Anyway, so that was Howard. And then Howie Mandel said, I have friends who do a very similar routine to that one, but they do it really well. Basically saying they do it better, and I understood what he meant because I've seen other pickpockets who, unlike me, I'm just someone who does, it's kind of part of what I do. Some people they are pickpocket entertainers. They don't even call themselves magicians. That is all that they do. And maybe you've seen some of these guys on TV. It's like, boom, taking watches, taking belts, taking suspenders. I mean, it's really exciting, really fun, and they inspire me, but that wasn't like my whole shtick, and maybe that's what they were maybe that's even what the producers were looking for here, right? But Howie's like, I've seen better. Now, Heidi loved it. That's the cool thing. Heidi was like, I loved it. She goes, he had to get up there. He was entertaining. He did some amazing things in the course of taking the watches. And then to know how to get the watches off them without them knowing it. It was like Heidi summed it up into exactly what I was going for. Kind of hoping that Heidi would hit that golden buzzer. I don't know if they had the golden buzzer at the time. That might have come after. But I wish they would have. Wish she would have done that. It's almost like I wanted the other people to say, oh, you're right, Heidi. I hadn't thought about all those things. But you have to have 3 yeses out of 4, and I only had 1 yes out of 4, so I got voted off right then. Now, keep in mind, I had not sought out to do this. They had sought me out. And even though I hadn't built this up as a dream from a kid, if I want to be on America's Got Talent, it wasn't around when I was a kid. Star Search was the thing. But it wasn't like some lifelong dream, but for the past 6 months, I was building this up in my mind in a big way. Have you ever built something up so big that you're just setting yourself up for disappointment? So, have you ever been there, right? I mean, I was at a point where I got sent home. It was over just like that. Now, they never aired my segment on TV. I wish they would have, because then I could have put like America's Got Talent as a true credit. Like, I've been on the show. But then when people search it, I don't come up. They didn't even put it on YouTube, and I don't know why. I wish they would have so that I could, share that video because I feel like it was a good performance. Then maybe I could get people rallying with me like, bring him back. Wishful thinking. But they didn't put it on there, and I was so devastated, so disappointed. Even though I felt like I did good, I felt like a failure. I was disappointed in myself, and I was so devastated. At that point, I actually wanted to quit magic. I truly did. I wanted to just take all the props, the things I've been working on since I was 11, rope tricks, card tricks, mentalism tricks, ball it all up, throw it into the ocean, and just be done with magic forever. All right. Again, have you ever been there? In other words, have you ever brought your absolute best to a situation, only to get the exact opposite response of what you were hoping for? Or have you ever poured countless hours or years into something only to be massively disappointed? Or have you ever just wanted to quit? Well, in that moment, as I share with my audiences, I knew that I needed to ask the question, well, instead of quitting, what else is possible? Because that's what the possibility mindset is, right? What else is possible? But I couldn't even ask that question in that moment because I was hurting. I was in pain. And I was used to like picking up the ball, moving on, thriving through failure, but this was like a new level of discouragement and disappointment that just sort of debilitated me and put me almost into a state of depression. I mean, really, for weeks, months after, the kids were like, what's wrong with Dad? Because there'd be times where I'm just moping around. And for me, it was like that lost opportunity. Like this could have been like the next step in my career, just make things easier, make it bigger, make more money, get more respect, work my way toward fame. And I just was all flushed down the toilet in that moment. But here's the spoiler alert, okay? I did not quit magic. For those of you who have seen me perform, you're thinking, well, obviously, we know that. I didn't quit, okay? But the question is, why didn't I quit? How did I keep going? More importantly, how can you keep going when you feel like you can't? How can you stop fearing the worst and start hoping for the best, even when things don't always turn out the way you were hoping that they would? Because this journey of life, it's an emotional journey, right? How do you stay your best mentally well when you're experiencing emotional distress? All right, here's how I kept going, okay? Through that process, I discovered something that completely transformed the way that I was feeling. And this can transform you too, and I call it the AGT perspective. AGT as in America's Got Talent, but see, after what happened, those words caused me pain. So I knew I needed to redefine what those letters meant so that I could see new possibilities again. And now AGT means this: always give thanks. Always give thanks. Crazy simple, insanely powerful, but not always the easiest for us to apply in our hardest moments. But maybe you've been here. Maybe you've been at a place where when you're fully in gratitude, wonderful and like amazing things start to happen, right? You start to feel the relief of accepting what is and stop blaming yourself for past mistakes. And instead you focus on what's good, right? And you start asking better questions, like, is there a greater reason for this outcome? Is this blessing me some way right now, or will it bless me somehow down the road? And these are questions that help you take control of your emotions by deciding how you're going to look at any situation, no matter how disappointing, including and especially failure. All right, so this is what America's Got Talent taught me about failure. It showed me that failure is not a dead end. It's just a fork in the road. And you get to choose the path of growth over the path of giving up. In other words, you choose to make failure make you, not break you. Let it hone you, not own you. Carry you, not bury you. Okay, but you have to choose to let failure revitalize you, not paralyze you. Let it bless you, not depress you. Revive you, not deprive you. Most importantly, you can let failure refine you, not define you. So here's what I'm saying. May the forks be with you. That's it. And you can decide right now, that you're never going to stop being thankful for the things in your life. And the next time something hard happens, instead of saying, oh, how am I ever going to get through this? Ask different questions. Say, what else do I have to be grateful for? What else in my life is working? There's always something. And just ask yourself, what in your life right now is priceless? What is it? Is it your health? Is it your character? Is it your relationship? A lot of times when we're experiencing emotional pain over one thing, we just completely overlook the treasure that we already have. So that's my challenge to you today. When hard things hit, focus on your treasure. Always give thanks. It can really shift your perspective and make you realize, maybe this has happened for a greater reason, a greater outcome. And later, in a future episode, there I go again with the future episode thing, excuse me. I'm going to share an even deeper way that this experience years later showed me gratitude it like at a new level. And I'd like to save that story for another time, okay? because right now I just really want to stop there for today and just let you focus on what are your blessings, what are your greatest treasures. Let those things carry you through the hard times. Okay, that's it for today. Wow, this has been fun. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I do believe something greater is always possible for you. And if you feel touched by this, if you feel like this can impact your life, subscribe right now so we can stay in touch. Share this episode with other people. Also follow me on social media at Devin Henderson Speaker. So there you are. We'll see you next time. And remember, something greater is always possible.